Welcome to the Los Angeles Tribune bestseller books celebration. Today, we are very, very excited because we have one of the critically acclaimed bestseller books that we are featuring. And so, Alicia, I would love to hear, first of all, our book that we're featuring today is a compilation book. So we've got a lot of authors that have been involved in creating this masterpiece, but we've got two of the founders of the creation of this masterpiece. And I'm excited because this was nominated by our readers anonymously. And I am thrilled that Alicia has brought in also these authors together to make this possible. So, Alicia, how excited are you?
Ava, I'm delighted to be here. This is part of the Los Angeles Tribune bestseller experience. We're here at the Los Angeles Tribune. We are celebrating authors and their books through a different kind of experience where readers actually get to nominate their favorite book and their favorite authors to be considered and recognized as Los Angeles Tribune bestsellers. Today, we're here to discuss impact, what it means to be an impactful entrepreneur. And it is such a delight and an honor for us to be here to formally recognize the book Impact Entrepreneur that was driven and curated by Patricia Wooster and Wendy Blum Weiss, and 15 authors talking about what it means to have impact and what it means to be an entrepreneur and what it means to be an entrepreneur with impact. Wendy, Patricia, it is such a delight to have you on today. Would love for you both, before we get into the book Impact Entrepreneurs, to introduce yourselves, starting with Wendy. I mean, Wendy, there's so much I can say about you. You are a coach, you are an advocate, you are a former corporate executive, and you believe in seeing the best in people and bringing that out of them. But would love for you, in your own words, Wendy, to further introduce yourself.
Well, first, it's such an honor to be here. So thank you so very much to the LA Tribune. And when you leave corporate and you try to figure out how to enter the world of being a business owner, an entrepreneur, a creative, one of the things is that you have to figure out, and I resigned and left and made the transition at the age of 50, how you go from one to one to one to many. And early on, I understood that you wanted to use your voice to share a message and also write a book so that you could share your story, your message, your impact, why you do what you do. And so from that time, I then myself took some training and became trained as a speaker and wrote my first book. And then I became passionate, so passionate about helping other entrepreneurs and creatives and business owners do the same by becoming a professional speaker and becoming a best-selling author.
And Patricia, you are an individual who has had a publishing company. You started an AI company with your husband and have really invented yourself. But would love for you to share more about your process.
Hi, everyone. Thank you, Ava. Thank you, Alicia. So like Wendy, I started out in corporate, transitioned into book writing, and actually consider myself an author first. And what I found is people from corporate kept asking me how I did this, how I put this together. And I realized there was a lot of bad and misinformation out there. And for people to position themselves as the leader in their industry or an authority in their space, it's all about, getting the word out there. And most of us don't know how to build our brands. And so I started working with people to write and publish their books. I worked with hundreds of authors, but then also how to leverage that into programs, certifications, software, consulting, whatever that is that they want to spend their time doing, so they can spend more time doing what they love and less time caught up in like admin and building Instagram accounts and trying to get people to see who they are. This creates an automatic global presence that they can leverage over and over it. So I feel so blessed to be partnered with Wendy And she and I have teamed up, and our goal really is to reach as many people as we can who want to create an impact with their expertise and help them get to the next level.
So powerful, Patricia and Wendy, you sharing your background, but would love to get into Impact Entrepreneur. Impact Entrepreneur it's an interesting read because on one hand, it's teaching individuals how to navigate the life of an entrepreneur, but on the other hand, it's very deeply personal. Like each one of the authors, the 15 authors that you co-collaborated with, but also yourselves, you dive into the story of your life, right? Wendy, in your chapter, you talk about how you made a decision on your birthday, you were going to jump into full-time entrepreneurship, that you had done it in doses, but you wanted to dive in. And you got deeply personal about what your life experiences were. And I won't give too much away, but what your life experiences were dating back from when you were 17 all the way through your career. What was the collaborative process like for both of you as both publishers and co-authors of this book to bring it together and create space for the authors that contributed to the book to really get open and personal about what their journeys were, especially because some of the authors in your book are first-time authors? Wendy, I'll start with you.
Well, that's why that we include the whole process, and we have book coaching and the community calls, and we learn so much from one another, and the impact that you make from telling your story. So it takes a minute if you haven't really gone in. So we help people figure out what their story is, look at the whole 30,000 foot view, because it's one thing to want to write a book, right? And it's another thing to understand the process. And we do the same thing, right? We, as storytellers, it's something that from the beginning of time, that's what we connect with. We don't really care what someone is selling until we understand how much they care, right, about solving our problems and why it is they do what they do. And with Impact Entrepreneur, that's what it's about. And then working together with Patricia, with her expertise, with the publishing company and all the things, we just take a top line view and really supporting our authors through the entire process.
What about for yourself, Patricia? Patricia, you've been in publishing, right? You have a publishing company, but you also deviated in a way and expanded your experiences as an entrepreneur, diving into the AI company that you founded with your husband and your business partner. And you are bringing a different vantage point of entrepreneurship to the experience. And you share that in your book, but you've also brought in all of these other individuals to talk about deeply personal experiences and stories. How did you bring this experience together, and how was it maybe different than other books that you have worked on as it related to entrepreneurism? Because you were also expanding what it meant for you to be an entrepreneur in the process as well.
Yeah, I mean, and to expand on like what Wendy said, when we talk about story, so Wendy and I have participated in every one of our co-author books, and we'll continue doing it going forward. We're not telling the same story. We all have a lot of stories. So like my chapter this time covered 12 months. That was it. And actually, my business is quite different from when it was that book was published. But so it's really working with authors and trying to figure out what is the story right now that where they can get vulnerable and really share why they do what they do, like why it's so important for them to create the impact they're doing what they're doing, so that they can build that like, know, and trust with the reader. They attract the right people to them, but they're also, it's important in business as an entrepreneur to repel the people that aren't just the best fit for you, that maybe there's a different place that they should go, because that's how we expand our business. The capacity of an entrepreneur is like this, we're trying to squeeze in a full staff of people into a very small team and get a lot done. And so the thing is that when I noticed was writing books, I was keeping my authors too small. If you're an expert, like you're an expert in the book, you're an expert in your business, you can take that expertise, you can build a software company, You can be a speaker, you can have a course, you can do whatever you want with it once you have the knowledge. And that's what we're trying to open the eyes of these individual authors that we work with, is that you have this knowledge that other people are out there looking for. They need it. That message is now use it in a lot of different ways. Don't keep playing like so many entrepreneurs and business people think, this is who I am. This is my LinkedIn resume. So this is what I'm going to keep doing. And so we really work with them also from a business perspective of let's see how we can now leverage this asset into what you really want to do. You don't have to stay stuck in what you're doing now if that's not what you enjoy doing. And so it really is finding the right story for the right moment in time. And so that's what we love doing.
And I mean, this is not your first co-authored book, and I know that you have many projects in the works, but this book was particularly about impact. What kind of impact do you foresee or envision this book having really on culture? Something that I found quite unique about the book was that all of the authors were so uniquely different, and the perspective that they shared were different. Like Patricia, you mentioned that you kind of talked about your experiences in 12 months. They're and when you kind of talked about your career and how you navigated as an entrepreneur, Kathy spoke about what it was like in her own life navigating the experiences that she had. Mariana spoke about what it was like with her family, right? And what she thought she needed in her life and where her life was going and how she ultimately shifted. This book is very much practical. These are ideas that you can have as an entrepreneur, like Wendy talked about, having a CRM system, understanding your branding. Patricia, you talked about not necessarily feeling like you have to be packaged with a website, but getting your idea out there and testing it in the market and seeing how it works. But for you all, like, what kind of impact do you want this book to have on the community or readers that have the opportunity to read it?
Well, to awaken something inside of them. So many people are just on autopilot. They're sleepwalking through their life. They don't know that they have choices. They think that whatever career choice that they had early on in their life, they're stuck with it. And when somebody is willing to peel back the curtain and share their story, and then also how this calling, awakening, this impact has been the driving force inside. We all have something inside of us that makes us feel alive, where it no longer becomes work and the grind, and then it becomes really about service and giving and making a difference. And so if it ignites the light in somebody else, if it ignites another possibility for someone's career path. That's why we do what we do. And the authors that contributed and shared their stories and their business, their expertise, like what they're good at, what they're doing, what their transition, their pain points have been. Then it makes it possible for other people, all different walks of life. We have authors, all different ages, all different backgrounds. And that's what we want. We want to inspire as many people with the stories and the messages from the book.
And I think what I saw too was how the purpose is connected in each one. So like we have Rocco, he's a chiropractor, but he's also a single dad. He was very vulnerable in his chapter about what it meant to be a single dad and trying to teach like emotional intelligence and personal development to his kids. And so he inspires and has built a community around single dads. And so he found his purpose through a situation, and now he's sharing it with people. And then we've got Amber, who shares a story about her brother drowning, when he was very young, and how now she's in financial services. And a lot of people would say, well, what's the connection to that? Well, for her, it's helping people navigate and prepare for hardships, right? So now she has brought her purpose into a business that may typically be considered maybe a little dry or something to me. I'm not a math person, but you know what I mean? Like, she has connected her purpose to what she does. Just like Wendy and I, what we do could sound like artsy or whatever. Certain people will be like, I hated English. I hated writing, right? But that's not what we're doing. That's not the purpose behind what we're doing. So we also want the reader to start making their own connections between their life experiences and how it's driving what they do or what they want to do. and then see other people doing it. We need the blueprint. We need to be able to see other people doing things to know kind of what is available to us, what we can actually do. And so we very intentionally pick the participants for each book because we want a mix of people, we want a mix of experiences. We also want people who are not going to treat it like a sales brochure, but are really going to get vulnerable, really going to speak to their reader, and really share not just the good and not the highlight reel, but they're going to share the challenges and how they face those challenges as well. Because we want the reader to actually enjoy the book. We don't want this to be something that's for the authors, really. It's for everyone, to get something from it, to create that impact.
And impact will write in different ways. One thing that was quite unique about the book was the emotional feelings. Like Michelle's chapter, I'm creating my reality. And she talked about navigating and dealing with traumas and what that meant and how that was stored in her body and how to release that so she could be all that she was in her practice and her business. But oftentimes, as an entrepreneur, when you read a book, it's about what are the practical steps? What business systems do I have? Who is my business mentor and my coach? But what does it look like when you're actually navigating the feelings that you have to navigate through to ultimately get to where you want to be in terms of the impact? How did you both balance the storylines that you did bring into the book? Because their perspectives are so different and different people can see themselves through different stories. So from an editorial perspective and a publishing perspective, when you were editing the book and working with your authors and coaching them, how did you navigate the various storylines in Impact Entrepreneur?
Well, so, we get to know when we go through an interview process when authors are coming in. And even for the next series of books, we have 2 different books with 2 different themes. So we themed the book. We knew there was somebody, Wendy Shore, that she had wanted to be in one of our book projects, but it wasn't really quite the right theme for her. So then when we had Impact Entrepreneur, that was. Also, we had somebody else who shares his chapter about 7 weeks to change your life, right? He wasn't interested actually to participate until it was this particular topic, Impact Entrepreneur. So the theme, the title, and we have really been producing the books. So it self-selects people that they fall into that category, and we're not the right fit for everyone. We have 2 new books that are coming out, and one is the Biohack Entrepreneur. That's more appropriate for someone who's really driven from having some sort of protocol framework around biohacking health for productivity or for well-being. So it just ends up being the right fit. And we took 15 authors in this book, right? And that was just the number that we wanted to be in the book. It just really worked out, and we have a lot of different options for people.
Remarkable. So, Patricia, what has been the most surprising or inspiring feedback you've received from readers thus far? And how do you plan on continuously engaging with the readers and continuously expanding on your community? I know community is really big to the both of you.
Yeah, I mean, I think the thing that, in the beginning, we were kind of like, we're going to do these different types of co-author books. And then we really settled on they're all going to be based around entrepreneurs. Because when you become an entrepreneur, you're taking a leap of faith, right? I mean, very few of us are just born and saying, I'm never going to work for anyone. And so we work with a lot of people like Kathy Milo. She worked in the NICU, right? And now she's building this whole legacy business as her second act. And so they're taking a leap of faith. And we're all looking for information. And listen, there is a gazillion resources out there that will show you how to build a landing page or create an email list or do all of the tactical things of building a business. But there's not a lot of resources where you can actually follow behind people that have already done it. hear the good and the bad, hear their background, that they didn't start out with millions of dollars in the bank or all these connections. They started out scrappy like everyone else. And so we really are looking to inspire the readers. And that's the feedback we get. We get from people is saying, oh my gosh, I read so-and-so's story. I resonated so much. And now I'm going to try this in my business, or I've gone out and tried this thing that they talked about, because if they can do it, I can do it too. And as we move forward, we have decided we don't want to just end our relationship with these authors. Our authors get very tight. We get very tight. That's why we help them figure out what is the right story to tell. And through that process, we get really close to them. We also have communities behind the scenes, where they're inviting each other to podcasts, inviting each other to events, doing projects together. And so we did bring these people we created a community called the Unleash, Academy. And so we meet every week, and we've got all of our former people in there. And now we've got people who haven't even participated in writing books yet joining this community, because we're all inspired by each other. We're all doing the same thing. We can all learn and, collaborate and be in community together. And so the thing with Wendy that's been so awesome is we have very organically been able to build our business, because our authors tell us exactly what they need, exactly what they want. And we like everyone and they like us. And so we bring everyone together. They say they want something. We say, hey, are there 3 or 4 people that want this too? And we put it together. And so it's been really amazing for us. We feel very honored to work with so many amazing experts and purpose-driven people. And we talk about it all day long. Like, we can't believe how lucky we are, that we're like curating the perfect community for ourselves. So we feel like, just like the readers and everyone else, that we're very fortunate that these people are having an impact on us as well. So it's a great experience.
And people get to experience your book. They get to experience the authors through the book, but you also curate spaces to bring the authors together in person. So Wendy, you have your Unleashed Superpower event. You had it earlier this year. You brought the authors together. What is that experience like when you can work with authors, right? And then do events in Barnes and Nobles with them, invite them to kind of come on stage and share their story. And Patricia, like you said, really build that community feel. That is a community of readers, but also a community amongst the co-authors of the book. Would love to hear your thoughts, Wendy, on that experience.
Well, amazing. Just like a 10 on a 10, like the wow factor. Our authors get to speak on stage and to get everybody together, and also from our previous books as well. So to have one of our authors, Rachel, when she jumped into the book, she was carrying the torch for her father, who had passed away, who wanted to be an author, and she had his writing, but he passed away. So here she was able, her family flew in, her family and friends, and she was able to share that story and be on stage and carry forth his legacy. And then you have Steve Thaluzma and Daniela, their powerful story. Steve as a serial entrepreneur, and the way that they built a business together, and Daniela's story just so deeply touches her heart. So to have them be on stage and to be able to connect with live people. Virtual is fantastic. We love it. But to be able to be, and I have goosebumps thinking about it, right? To see all the hugs, the connections, the networking, the opportunities. We had live podcasting there. We had the LA Tribune. You guys were there, which was like so amazing, right? So nothing is better than that as far as really bonding the community together, and also to see other people like Debbie Golden, who is in this book. She was at another one of our book events. She was thinking about leaving corporate. She had no idea she was going to leave. Well, she knew she was going to leave. She had no idea she was going to write a book. She came into the event. At the end of the event, she walked up and she said, I want to be in the next book. And she was in Impact Entrepreneur, and she has since left corporate, and she has since crushed it online, right? So it's just so fantastic to see how everybody is doing exceptional things in the world and supporting one another in the process.
And that support is key. And Wendy, you highlighted something that I want to share with individuals that will be listening to this. And it's that there are so many different stories, but you mentioned Daniela rather, and Stephen Talisma, and they're a married couple, and they shared their stories both from their own unique perspectives along their life journey. But then you had Mike and Kelly who talked about what their experience was like as a couple running their business in the same chapter. And so there are so many vantage points that people get to learn from and learn about what people pour into their life experience, how they've evolved as a person, but how they can come together with a partner in their business, but also as an author. There are also other couples in the book as well. So, I think it's very interesting. And like you said, entrepreneurialism, on being an entrepreneur is not for everyone. And there are so many hidden emotions behind being an entrepreneur. People often think about what are the numbers, what does your marketing look like, but who are you as self? And through the stories in the book Unpack Entrepreneur, people's stories truly came out about who they are, how they had to evolve as an individual to be able to show up and show out in their business, what their relationship is with a challenge, whether it's a failure or not, or you get to learn. There are so many gems in both of your chapters. But Patricia, how you talk about curiosity and just being open to the process and allowing the flow. There are so many gems from both. These are the things that you should think about as an entrepreneur, but also like it is an evolution of self. Wendy, you talked about it. Like when you're an entrepreneur, what is the shift that you go through from being a corporate employee to advocating for yourself, your value, right? Your self-worth. How do you speak on your behalf and what those experiences are like? So, would love to hear both in your own words how being an author, a publisher, and editor of Impact Entrepreneur changed your experience as an author, but also in the way that you show up in your community. Wendy, started with you.
Well, I want to also mention that we do have people in the book too that are still in the corporate world and may stay in the corporate world, like DK, right? And it just gives you a glimpse, a cross section of all people. And whether they work for a company, whether they're retired, we had somebody who was retired in the book, whether they want to transition or already transitioned, that we are a melting pot. It's a reminder that we are all created alike and yet so differently. And the thing that bonds us together really is our heart. And there are a lot of things, out there. There are a lot of stressors that are out in the world. Books change lives. Like I've always known that, Patricia, like we know that, right? We're passionate about it. Books change lives. And even continue to speak about this, but you never know that one book, that one story in a book, which when you have a collaboration book, you have an opportunity to be inspired 15 times or 20 times by 20 different people per se. But it just makes my passion stronger than ever to shout it from the mountaintop that everybody has a voice, everybody has a story. I believe truly, I know Patricia does too, is that everybody really has an opportunity in today's world to feel their contribution and their belonging by actually sharing their message, their passion, their story in book form, just even if it changes one life. And the person's life that it's going to change first is going to be the person writing it. And we have seen the transformation that has happened with our co-authors. Just right, it's so emotional. Like to dig deep, you literally are doing a self-discovery on yourself, and you're healing and you're expanding and all those things. So we're more passionate about it than ever. You can hear it, like in our voices, and really the fact that you're so passionate about books, right? Books change lives. It's never going to change. It's since the beginning of time.
Books change lives. What about for you, Patricia?
So, well, it's interesting. So, Wendy and I have been doing this for a couple years, and it was really kind of a side passion project for me. I had 3 other businesses, and what happened during this book for me personally was so life-changing was I called Wendy in March and I was like, there's something like I could see there was something really special going on. This was our 3rd book. Each group gets closer and closer. We have a lot of what I call repeat offenders, people who've done one book with us and they sign up for the next one, then the next one, and they just keep circling around. And in March, I called her. I'm like, what would this look like if we were just together, all in, right? Like I'm all in, And so really shut down those other 3 things I was doing. And, Wendy and I have really just the 2 of us merged our business into one and created this Mindset to Millions because we said, this is something that is like kind of unbelievable. Like we didn't intentionally just meet up one day and say, we're going to build this from the ground up. There was this organic swell that happened as we thought we were bringing communities together. They were actually starting to kind of like grow and communicate and do things together. And we were just like, we're in the position to be able to curate this. This is so amazing. And so for me, during this book process, like really my entire business, my entire outlook of what I was doing changed and really brought so much clarity, the kind of clarity that we hope we bring to the people that we're coaching. But for me, all the pieces started to like click in place because it was, during COVID, everyone was really kind of, I think it was a reflective period for most people in some regard, whether it was their personal life, their families, what they spent their time doing, where they spent their time doing it. Right. And this is when Wendy and I met. And this is when we started bringing people together. But what she and I noticed is once the dust settled and everyone went back to their lives, our community stayed together and just got tighter. And so it's really exciting because to me, I consider this book, Impact Entrepreneur, as a launching point for us. It's only going to get bigger and better. And it's been so exciting to cheerlead next to people and behind our authors now and see what they're doing because we really do. We know what's going on with everyone. I mean, I'll get a text from Wendy 9:00 at night and she'll say, did you just see that video that Debbie posted? And she's got 1 million views. She was in corporate like several months ago with no account. Now she's like blowing up. And hey, did you hear about so-and-so's doing their first retreat or this or that? I mean, we're constantly talking and then saying, let's get on the phone with these people. Like, this is amazing. And cheerleading them in our WhatsApp groups and our academy where we're keeping people together. And so really, this is kind of what it's about. It's about building this community. Everything to me we do outside of that is like window dressing. It's really about the community and helping these people that we think are so amazing, so brilliant, and so purpose-driven really get to where that dream job or position is and letting them know that not only are we behind them, but all the other authors, everyone else in the community is rooting for them as well. And so we do a lot of collaborations and community building, which I know, Alicia, you do a lot of community building and have a big network as well. And it's so important right now. It's really what entrepreneurs need. So they feel like they have permission to go out there and really do what they do best, which is serve, their audience. So it's been a pleasure.
I have a one word, one phrase for that, Patricia, and it's impact, right? It's impact, it's support, community collaborations, and that theme comes up time and time again in Impact Entrepreneur. And another aspect of the book that is so great, in addition to the fact that there are so many different perspectives, people that are in corporate, people that are entrepreneurs, but you can be an entrepreneur, right? You can be an entrepreneur without actually having a business. It's how you show up, right? How are you showing up? How are you valuing yourself? How are you processing the experiences that you're going through? There are so many insights in the book that are very explicitly direct for entrepreneurs, whether they're still in corporate or not. But there are also so many life lessons about what is your story about? Like, what choices do you make? When you studied something, if you were in college and you had a major, right? Is that what you really want to do? What are your passions? There are so many different themes that come up in the book. So as much as it is about entrepreneurialism, it's also about how are you navigating who you are in this world and how you show up, what you do with your time. Patricia, you talked about your time. Your time is valuable, and the things that you may want to spend time on or not, you get to choose, right? Like, and I love that I won't speak about it too much from your chapter, but I love that you dove into that in your chapter, because that is such an important concept. So, Wendy and Patricia, you are authors in this book, but also want to acknowledge the other co-authors that brought the book to life. There was Mariana Amilcar, Kathy Viner, Rachel Brisseden, Rocco Krappus, Debbie Golden, Michelle Kaplan, Kathy Miller, Kelly Olive, Mike Olive, Dr. Brianna Powderly, Wendy Shore, Amber Stitt, Daniela Delusma, Stephen Delusma, DK Warner, Harry Weiss, Wendy Blumweiss, and you yourself, Patricia. You all got together to create this book. I'm going to ask you my last question here as we go to closing remarks, and it is, what does impact mean to you? And I'll start with Patricia.
So, impact for me is really about hitting somebody at the right time with the right mission. And I'll just give you a short story. But so I had a very serious lung surgery several years ago and a very, very long, painful recovery. And I had ordered a book because I'm a routine person and I had no routines at the time, called The Miracle Morning. It was the right book at the right time for me. If I would have read it before that, or if I read it today, it wouldn't have landed, right? And I read that book and it gave me the instructions of how to basically create a morning routine, and do the things that I needed at that particular time in my life. And the thing that really stuck me was that idea of the right message at the right time to the right person. And so we've all read books that we read it, we're like, it's the best book we've ever read. We cannot believe it. It's mind blowing. We won't shut up about it. And then we may pick up that same book 3 years later and they're like, I mean, it's okay, but whatever. But that's because we don't need that message anymore. Right. And so I always say somebody out there is waiting for the story that you have yet to tell or the information you have yet to share. There is somebody out there that needs that message. And so that was what impact is to me, is that if you can just impact one person, 2 people, 3 people, right? And then they can go on and impact, it's a multiply, it's compound interest, right? It's a multiplier effect. So that is impact. It doesn't have to be huge. It doesn't have to be a big thing. It's getting one girl off her couch, who reads something, that takes action, that then now is there for her family, or now, back at work. Like, it's that one thing. And so to me, that's what impact's all about.
Wow. And what about for yourself, Wendy? What does impact mean to you?
I always thought of a career as your income, your livelihood. And although I worked for Fortune 500 companies that were doing good work in the world, I never actually felt like I was out there, that it was me, Wendy, like really contributing to make that difference. The I impact, if you take a word, I love taking words and then dissecting the word. The I and the M, like the I am, it's like making a pact. I believe as humanity that we are placed here with a calling, a message, something that we're supposed to do, experience, go through, recover from. And when we are aligned, when we take our mind, because most of us are just thinking throughout the day, but if we can go from here into here, this is what the world needs. Impact is heart, that you can actually feel it. The names that we know that made an impact, Martin Luther King, we all know the big, big names, but it's the person next door. It's the person that when you're not feeling well and they bring you chicken soup, we all have the ability to make an impact. Taking a pen and writing on a piece of paper and then sharing the message to somebody else, and then like in a book form, that has a ripple effect. And you just have no idea how books really can impact someone's life. So the I impact. I believe that we are all here to discover our impact, to connect to our heart, and just focus on somehow touching a life, and make sure that we're at the top of the list too. Make sure we're on that list, right? And that's how we thrive as humanity.
Powerful words. Impact is a theme of the book. It is a theme of the work. You can see that very clearly in the way that you light up when you speak about the work that you do. Congratulations again to you, Wendy, to you, Patricia, as co-authors of the book, as editors of the book, as publishers of the book, and congratulations to the 15 individuals that collectively came together to share their own personal journeys on what their experience has been like, both navigating their life and navigating entrepreneurship. Congratulations to all those involved. Here at the Los Angeles Tribune, we just want to say that we recognize you, and your community recognizes you for the impact that you have done with this book. Thank you all. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
Thank you so much for having us.
Thank you.